Hey guys, today we're going to talk about Spider-Man. We've been watching all Spider-Man movies recently, and I've always liked Spider-Man. If you don't know, I draw comics. I do a lot of web comics. I do comic books and graphic novels. And
he's a god.
I like comics, and Spider-Man's definitely one of the comics I've always enjoyed, one of my favorites. And Bennett has something he wants to show you.
It's Green Goblin! Yay!
So Bennett used some of his Christmas money to order a Green Goblin from the first Spider-Man movie that we got on eBay for a pretty good deal.
And I'll tell you how I thought of getting it. First, we were watching the movie, and then we went on YouTube and saw this in the mostly exact same one. So then I got on eBay, but I didn't notice a few differences on that video. It looks like you can't take off his head and show like his regular face and the size of the helmet, which I could kind of already tell in the box. It comes with like shooting bombs. That's even cooler than the other one. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I've always liked Spider-Man. It was one of the ones I collected growing up. I wasn't super into comics growing up, but that was one of the ones I liked. Mostly I like comic strips more than books when I was young. But that was one of the ones I read, and I think Spider-Man has a good appeal. He's cool looking, he's like young, and he's not infallible.
And what does that mean?
It means he's not perfect. He can make mistakes or have trouble. It's not kind of boring like Superman.
And he got awesome villains.
He's got cool villains.
Yeah, you can see all the other toys.
And hearing about kind of the behind the scenes of Spider-Man's origin, and I was interested in learning about Steve Ditko and kind of the artist versus writer debate, and learning more about kind of Stan Lee and how he's taking credit for a lot of things and kind of pushed artists to the back. So all that stuff kind of drew me in and was interesting, and it made me start working on my own comics.
That inspired you?
Yeah. So Bennett's opening up his toy here. Let's take a look.
I'm magically excited.
And besides the toy, we're also going to talk about some of our favorite Spider-Man video games.
Yeah, like Spider-Man, what's it called?
Shattered Dimensions.
Yeah, I love that one. It's cool.
So I guess we're already talking about it. Well, Bennett takes this out. Let's talk about it. So Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. We have it for the PlayStation 3. And
Please, you can get this out.
it's one of Bennett's favorite go-to games on the PlayStation 3.
Yep, you can't take off his helmet. You can see.
And that's kind of a fun Spider-Man game because you play as 4 different Spider-Men from different dimensions. So one of them is
Spider-Man 2099.
Spider-Man 2099, which Bennett was already interested in. He has a cool action figure of that.
And I lost it though.
Well, I'm sure you'll find it. And then it has Spider-Man Noir, which of course I really like. If you've ever seen any of my comics, I actually do a noir superhero comic myself. So
yeah, I love that one because like you're sneaking up on people, secretly getting them is really fun.
It's definitely the most fun one to be in the game. Then the style's really cool. It's primarily black and white, and that's a stealth-based Spider-Man. The aesthetics of it are cool. The setting of it's cool. It's like a 1930s setting Spider-Man that isn't really as powerful. He uses kind of gadgets and things. And if you're into like steampunk type stuff, it's got that kind of style to it.
Yep. And it got Venom Spider-Man.
It has regular Spider-Man, of course, and then I forget what the other Spider-Man is, but basically he's the black-suited Spider-Man. So they all play a little differently, which is kind of cool. And it's not an overly long game, but I think you get a turn as each of the Spider-Man three times.
Yeah,
so 12 levels.
Yeah,
decent.
So the first time is called Act 1 for each level, second one Act 2, and third world Act 3.
Yeah, and there's a story with Mysterio stealing something and tying all these things together. We have to work together. We saw a similar thing to that on, I think it was the Ultimate Spider-Man show, where they had Green Goblin going between different Spider-Man universes. Seems to be a thing lately. Like Ninja Turtles has done that a few times too. where they go from different iterations of the show and to the Turtle universe.
Different dimension.
So kind of an interesting idea, especially if you're fans of the different Spider-Men. It's kind of cool to see them interacting and stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, we could still figure out after this, but I have no idea how you could get the pumpkin things. And look, they're all wobbly for some reason.
So what else do you have to say about Shattered Dimensions?
It's like really cool, and basically your main goal in each one is to get like, so the main story is that Mysterio is like at a museum and has like a big stone, and then regular Spider-Man trying to hurt him, like trying to like beat him up for he doesn't steal it, but then and he wants to steal it for he can get really powerful, super powerful, but then he end up cool. And then he end up.
Oh. Pretty cool.
Yeah, then he end up breaking it, and then it's like eating each dimension. So you have to then each level you're trying to get a piece of the stone. How do you get it in?
It just these are basically springs, so you just push it in, and then once you turn it to the side, it releases the spring and the pressure sends it out.
Wait, so I just push this?
You just turn it to the side and you'll shoot.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, the game's cool. I've played a bit of it. Bennett can mostly do it on his own. There's been times where he asked me for help. Some of the locations you're playing in can be large and you have to search things out, so that part gets tricky. It really depends which one you're playing as. I would like to see them do a Spider-Man Noir full game, because that part's definitely the standout of it.
It's really dope.
I know they made one that's kind of a semi-sequel, Edge of something, but we haven't tried that one yet. I heard it's not quite as good, but I'd be willing to try it.
Wait, it's a sequel?
Kind of. It's the same thing where you play as different Spider-Men.
Is it Spider-Man Noir?
I don't know.
If it is, we have to get it.
But yeah, Spider-Man Noir. Also, the comic school I've read, and similar to like if you've read Gotham by Gaslight, it's the same kind of thing with Batman. And I know they did other Marvel ones like that too, but I'm not as familiar with them. But I did like Gotham by Gaslight a lot. I'm a pretty big Mike Mignola fan though, so I was into that also.
Yep.
The first Spider-Man game that I really got into was for the PlayStation 1, the original.
It's hard.
Bennett's tried it a little. I really liked it. It was the first game I played that made me feel like I was really controlling a superhero, and you could use the powers. And the coolest thing about it was, if you liked Spider-Man, it was full of different Spider-Man characters, and Stan Lee was the narrator. And
Who's Stan Lee?
Stan Lee is the co-creator of Spider-Man.
Oh.
And one of the big guys at Marvel.
Yeah.
He's the one that you see pop up in every movie. So that was the way it was presented was really cool, and it was really fun, and the story was interesting. I remember it involved a big final boss that was a new thing where Carnage took over Dr. Octopus, and you had to fight that and run away from that.
Wasn't Stanley like that guy in the black suit and has like an eye patch?
No.
Oh.
Stanley's an old man with white hair and a mustache. You're thinking of Nick Fury.
Oh yeah. Oh, and then once you beat the full game, you get to be Green Goblin.
No, that's a different game.
Oh. That's in that after then.
A few things about the game. I just remember it had like cool cinematics with voice acting. It did a good job of making you feel like you were in this world, and the levels had enough variety to them that I wouldn't get too bored. I haven't gone back to play it much. I tried it with Bennett just to show it out briefly.
We should play it again soon.
Yeah, I'd like to sit down and play it. Kind of ugly to play now, just because it's a first generation PlayStation, very polygonal, but it's still.
He's calling it ugly.
Well, a lot of things from that time haven't aged that well, but it's worth trying. It's got a little bit of mission variety to what you're doing. Sometimes you have to get somewhere in time. You're chasing someone down. Some are just straight fights. Sometimes you're defusing bombs, that kind of thing. It's fun though. It's worth playing, and the way they kind of got around the open world
I
is that
cannot get this stuff.
they incorporated the poison fog into the story, so everything's covered in this green fog that prevents you from going down to street level or anything. It's because you have it turned to the side. It's ready to trigger.
Oh.
You're already releasing. Yeah, so that's kind of how they incorporated the limitations of the software into the story, which is kind of interesting. But some of the other Spider-Man games, there's 3 Spider-Man games for Gamecube based on the 3 original movies, and we played those quite a bit. The first one was, I thought, really cool and fun. That's, I think, the one Bennett's thinking of, where there's a way to play as Green Goblin once you beat the game.
But except you're not the Green Goblin, you're Harry.
You're playing as Harry, being the Green Goblin. They have a whole little narrative with it. It's kind of cool. I like that. I appreciate that they worked it in the story, try to make it make sense.
I don't get why you're like, what is he doing? What you're doing?
Well, I guess you got to play it all. But that was kind of fun. You didn't have to worry about swinging around because you're on the glider. That added something new to it. But Spider-Man 2 is where things really improved because they added this great web-slinging mechanic. So you're pushing right and left triggers on your GameCube controller. I'm sure they made it for the other systems too, but GameCube is the one that I have played on and I have. So I really would enjoy just swinging around the city with my Wavebird controller, just slam, and then it was momentum based, so you could swing down and build up, and I think you held down one of the buttons and release to fly forward, and then gain some height, and then keep going. Just swinging around the city was really fun, and there's little things to do, little missions around the city, like get a kid his balloon or some silly things.
Really? Get a kid a balloon?
Yeah, or fight some gang, or different things. It not the best open world game, but just the mechanics, they got it perfect on that one. The third one, for some reason I remember not being quite as good. I think maybe they messed with those swinging mechanics and they weren't quite as tight. Story-wise, they followed the movies fairly closely, added things to flesh it out. I remember the voice acting being pretty bad in all of them, even though it had the real people.
Well, how's it bad then, if it's a real voice?
They sounded like bored or something. I don't know. It seemed like they weren't trying. Go try it. You'll see. It's not great. But those are fun. They're worth going back and playing. And then the other one that I had, also on GameCube, well, actually, I had it originally on PlayStation 2. I think I have it on GameCube now. I think I have it on both. But it's Ultimate Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, I used to play that one quite a bit.
Ultimate's pretty fun. It's based on the Ultimate Spider-Man comic series, which that was like a relaunch of Spider-Man to make it more palatable for new people just trying to get into it, because it started the whole story over. And it set it all back in high school. It changed some things, because if you're just getting into Spider-Man for the first time, it might be intimidating for you with like 50 years plus of lore to go over, and you might not want to dig deep into all that stuff. So it was a good idea to have this Ultimate series. I think that was Brian Michael Bendis did that one. It's there's things I like about the Ultimate, and there's things that are not as good as the other ones, and the art style is interesting. Definitely cool modern take on things, and they change up enough things that it's different enough that it's worth reading. But as far as the game is similar to the other Spider-Man game in the way you swing around and stuff, but the biggest difference aesthetically is that it looks like you're playing a comic book. And
yeah, like you do like mostly just missions, right?
There's missions. It's open world game too. There's stuff to find. There's little missions to do, and then there's major story missions. And it's similar to the other Spider-Man games. It kind of has some stuff in common with that original PlayStation Spider-Man game in that it draws in a lot of characters from the comics, and it makes you feel like you're in the comic world. It's really good at that, especially visually.
Yeah. And like I remember a mission where you're like racing a fire guy, and I really like how it starts off. Where you don't really have your costume on. You're just like Peter Parker unplugged, and like you're fighting Venom.
Well, I like that it had a story focus with it. The other major difference with that one though is that you play, I don't know if it's half the game, but it seemed like roughly half the story you play as Venom, and then when you're playing just fun like free roaming later, you could switch between Peter Parker or Spider-Man and Venom anytime you want. And Venom controls totally differently. He doesn't swing around. He can climb, but it feels cool when you're climbing as Venom because he's smashing into each building. You see like bricks flying and destruction flying around you, so you see him really pulling himself around. And then he's much stronger, so you can grab things like cars and throw them. You can destroy things. Then he also has a really high jump that you charge, and then you can jump onto like small buildings and stuff. And the only thing with him is his health's always depleting because he's always hungry, so you have to feed on people all the time, which is kind of cool because you grab them with your tentacles and pull them in, and then you suck like the life energy out of them. So I don't know, it's I think they're just knocked out or something. But it's really cool. I remember there's like a good rhino fight in there. There's
well, I ain't gonna remember the rhino fight. I'm sure he's some nerd.
Yeah, I don't know. There's stuff that's cool about it. Like I like it a lot. Still, it's worth playing too. Yeah. You have much more to add on that game?
I always play it, but every time I get max, I don't know where the heck to go.
Bennett doesn't have patience for any kind of open world stuff. We've been playing Breath of the Wild lately. I already played through and beat it earlier, and when it first came out, after about a month and a half, I had finished it and not gone back to too much. I had the DLC, but I had a really hard time getting back into it. We'll probably do like a longer video all about this. But I started it over with Bennett, and he's been playing quite a bit of it too, and he just has no patience for just exploring and finding side missions, or like he just wants to know, where am I supposed to go for the next big thing.
Oh, and then here's the other thing also. Like, it doesn't really have to do with Spider-Man, but I just want you to know if you're a fan of this. But remember how we made Slenderman video, you know, that guy? They're making an awesome movie.
I don't know if it's gonna be awesome. We'll see.
It looks creepy in the preview. The preview came out, so check that out. And then this, if you like Slenderman, see the movie when it comes out. But I don't know when it's coming out. It said coming soon, but it didn't give an actual date.
It looked pretty generic to me. I've seen a million horror movies, and I didn't see anything to differentiate it. But we're getting very off topic with things. Spider-Man, he's awesome.
Yeah, if you don't believe me, I'm wearing Spider-Man underwear right now.
You should have had I guess your Spider-Man costume doesn't fit anymore. That's a while ago.
Oh, this year I'm gonna, try wearing a Venom costume. Oh, look, I even got an ultimate Spider-Man glasses case.
Gotta keep those specs nice and safe. So yeah, there's been tons of Spider-Man games. Those are just the ones that I've played the most and that we enjoy.
Yep.
So check them out.
Oh guys, let us know if you want us to make videos just like little movies, like skits. And that'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, this thing's pretty neat. We've got quite a bit you could do with it.
Whoa, it's really nasty. Whoa.
Do your best Green Goblin impersonation.
Eat a pumpkin bomb. I'm getting chased by the police. Oh no! Better throw some more pumpkin bombs. Pumpkin bombs. Pumpkin bombs. Pumpkin bombs. Dang it! I missed.
I look forward to them doing a new Green Goblin with this new Spider-Man movie series, since the Amazing Spider-Man one that It didn't live up to anything.
Yeah, like the second series of Spider-Man is done. And the second, like the one with Electro, that Green Goblin looked all weird.
Yeah, I don't know.
They screwed
Well, there's
up.
a reason they killed that off. And they had to reboot it again so quickly.
Yeah, I know why they rebooted though, because Disney wanted to buy Spider-Man. They bought it though. They had to stop the series, but the people make a lot of money, so they decided to go with Disney. Yeah.
Okay, Spider-Man.
Cyclone Man.
Well, Willem Dafoe is kind of old. Alright, well I think we should wrap up since we're not really saying much of substance. So.
Eat a pumpkin bomb. Dang it! Oh, yes.
Do you have anything to say that you know Spider-Man says?
I can't get the bomb in.
Do you have it? There you go.
Okay.
You're not gonna stop?
Suckers up.
Suckers up, no. Ugh. Let's see if I can get it. Come on. Ah!
Oh,
Oh well. Alright.
Happy New Year.
Oh yeah,
Blah, blah,
Happy
blah.
New Year. Bye.
Yeah.